Hey, Bo, who has impressed you most in camp up to this point?
Good question. It's like starters or lower level guys.
It doesn't make a difference. Somebody that just caught you, somebody who's just caught your eye, and you said, "Wow,"
Well, this is like maybe this is unfair to Kelsey, but Cam Jurgens has looked very good to me. The second round pick, he's looked a little bit like the questions about him coming in were like, could he hold up to strength and physicality? And he has shown that, especially in one-on-ones. Like Jordan Davis had a good day 2 days ago or 2 practices ago, but when he went up against Cam Jurgens stoned him. So he's been impressive.
We are Take Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks. I am Rob Ellis, and we are joined by one of the men who covers the Eagles and the NFL with great aplomb. You can follow him on Twitter at Bo_Wulf, WULF. And he and his partner in crime, Zach Berman, have a really good piece today on Jason Kelce. Some really cool remembrance of him. Bo Wulf, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Thanks for having me, guys. How are you?
Bo,
Good, man. Good to see you.
What's up, bro?
The Kelce stuff.
I'm sorry?
What was the impetus for the Kelce stuff today?
Well, it's when you have a guy who's been in the locker room so long, you're like, you're trying to think what's a different angle we can take here. But I always do these games sometimes of trying to figure out how many touchdown passes a guy has thrown to somebody or how many guys he started with. And Kelce obviously has been with the Eagles. This is his 12th season. He started next to 28 guys. And so, I went looking, Zach and I went looking for some perspective that only the guys who have played next to him can give us. We hear so much about how smart he is on the field, but for us, nincompoops on the sideline, how do we really know what he's doing? How does that play out? And so, Halapula Vaitai told a great story of a blitz, a fake blitz that he recognized against the Giants. And it was funny, Jason Kelce said something in the spring about how your legacy is like the teammates that you've played with and, the guys who were there before you and also the guys who are going to be here long after. And I think it says a lot about Kelce that all of these teammates that we talked to were so eager to share their stories of Jason Kelce. I mean, take Big V, for example, he was here for 4 years. I was in the locker room with him every day and, had a few good conversations with him, but they were always very short. I get him on the phone to talk about Kelce, and he's just doing a monologue for 15 minutes. I got to cut him off. It's unbelievable. So it was a fun story to do.
Very cool, man. Good stuff.
That's what it's all about,
Bo,
man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bo. For the last several years, all we've heard, and this is from Kelce firsthand, is that he's contemplated retirement. If you were a betting man, is this his swan song this year?
It's so hard, and it has felt like that for a while. I did a story with Kelce in I think 2019 where I went to him every week and he would tell me what was the specific things that were going on with his body, his the back aches and the fingernails getting ripped off and all the knee stuff and all that goes, and then saved that for it would go out at the end of the season so that opposing defensive linemen couldn't go after his knee if his knee was hurting. Yeah. And that was a really eye-opening story for me, just what he goes through and the physical toll of a season on a player like him. And that was 3 seasons ago. He played that season and then 2 more. It's been crazy. And I think he is a little bit surprised at how good he feels. That he said something in the offseason about how he sort of credits Nick Sirianni's practice style over the course of the season in helping keep him healthy down the stretch. If I'm a betting man, I think I probably would guess that this is the last one, but I trust that he really does take it year by year and see how his body feels. And I think if he feels as good next offseason as he felt this offseason, and if he is having as much fun as he says that he's having, then, I wouldn't put it past him to come back. But I mean, you draft Cam Jurgens in the second round, it does feel like this is probably it.
Well, he doesn't mind that at all. He's done so much. People think that I'm lying when I say he's held together by bubble gum and duct tape, but you could just tell. I mean, just from a player looking at a player at this point in his career and knowing what he has to do when he gets up, rolling out of bed. He's probably literally rolling out of bed, picking himself up, going, you know what I'm saying, using the restroom. And then by the time he gets to work, he's probably there 6 o'clock in the morning just to get lubed up enough to walk around and go, and then have to practice after that. It's definitely trying, man. But, you know, just goes to show, you know, how much respect that he has for the game, that he's still playing. But I doubt seriously if he wasn't playing at a high level that he would really come back anyways. You know what I'm saying? I think that he still feels as though he's just as good as any center in the league, and that's why he is coming back. Has he said anything about, you know, where he is, where he thinks he is as far as other centers in the league, as opposed to, you know, where he was 5 years ago?
He hasn't come out and said that in that many words, but I mean, he's being paid more than any other center in the league, right? So I think he knows. I think he knows his market value, right? That he is playing like one of the best centers in the league. And to your point, you know, he has said like the reason I'm still playing football is the cafeteria, like, you know, to hang out with the guys, like that camaraderie is so dear to him. But I think right, like he's a prideful guy. As if his level dropped, I think that would mean a lot to him. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Bo, let me I want to piggyback off of that, what you said about Kelsey and the way that the camp is run and how it's aided him. And I'm sure the other veterans would echo that. So obviously much has been made of it, and was made of it last year too, mind you. But we haven't spoken to you regarding this. Do you think they're doing too little, or do you feel the time spent is very efficient and it makes sense to take the bigger picture view?
You know, it makes sense to me now. Like the reporter who stands on the sideline and watches practice is like itching for more action. Like, give me some Oklahoma drills on day one. Like, let's get after it. But you put yourself in the mind of the coach and the front office. I think it makes sense. For one, like this is the way that the league is going. It's not like the Eagles are alone in this plan. And I think it's like it's a balancing act. You know, you've got keep your starters healthy so they're ready for week one versus like we're going to lose. If we do that, we're going to lose some time evaluating the bottom of the roster guys. Like those guys are not going to get as many reps, and we might not have the full evaluation that we would have in years past. And that is a push and pull, but I think you would definitely lean towards it's more important to make sure that our starters are ready for week one. And I think, you know, there are some variables at play, but I think to the most part, like the proof is in the pudding. If they make it to week one healthy, and they were pretty healthy last year, then I think it was worth it.
I love how physical, this offensive line, and they're spearheading it, and Kelsey's like right there in the middle of it, you know. But how much worth, you know, what do you think if you put just the worth of Kelsey in that locker room, not just with the offensive line, but as far as being a leader on this team, you know, where would you set him as far as the last, 10 years, you know, with having a leader and the leadership, your leadership capabilities? I mean, I know Jason Peters was there, you know, he's up there with Donovan, you know, those guys. How big of an influence is he with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, you know, over the last decade, the guys I've covered, the guys that come to mind are Peters and Malcolm Jenkins and Jason Kelsey. It's those three guys, I feel like, in terms of like the sway they have in the locker room, the
right.
presence that they carry, the amount of time they're willing to give, you know, of themselves for the team, and like how much they care. I think those are the guys who really, you know, come to the forefront for me. And then you've got, you know, I'm sure I'm forgetting guys. Like I'm probably underselling Brandon Graham. Like nobody is more dedicated to the Eagles than Brandon Graham. And I loved what he said yesterday, you know, with all of this hullabaloo about Miles Sanders working with the second team. Like Brandon Graham has been working with the second team all camp for the most part. And he said, you know, I'll do whatever I can do to help the team. That's fine with me, as long as I'm not with the third team, which, you know, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, I think the Eagles have been pretty fortunate over the past decade that they have had some of these mainstays.
Hey, Bo, who has impressed you most in camp up to this point?
Good question. It's like starters or lower level guys.
It doesn't make a difference. Somebody who's just caught your eye, and you said, "Wow," you know.
Well, you know, this is like maybe this is unfair to Kelsey, but Cam Jurgens has looked very good to me. The second round pick, he's looked a little bit like the questions about him coming in were like, could he hold up to strength and physicality? And he has shown that, especially in one-on-ones. Like Jordan Davis had a good day 2 days ago or 2 practices ago, but when he went up against Cam Jurgens stoned him. So he's been impressive. I think that, like, you can tell that AJ Brown is going to bring a different dynamic to this offense. There's no doubt that, like, what he brings is something that they haven't had or didn't have last year. And, like, Jalen Hurts has completed way more passes to him than anybody else, I think, by a long shot. So that's been impressive in terms of the starters. Those are the two guys who stand out. I mean, I think we have talked about Marcus Epps before with you guys, and I think he has been very good. I still believe he is the best safety on the team, which is definitely a low bar. But I think that he has done what he has needed to do so far through camp.
All right, flip side of that, and granted, I understand we're not tackling to the ground. It's been one fully padded practice and all that, but is there anybody that you're a little bit concerned, whether it's struggling to pick up the system if they're new or just not really showing out? And anybody fall into the latter category, the opposite category that you just mentioned?
Like individually, none of the projected starters have checked that box for me. I feel like everybody has sort of been as expected. I mean, James Bradbury has come in and looked very good. You take all of this stuff with a grain of salt in training camp, right? You're trying to see, like, as long as they're within, like, the 20 to 80 percentile expectations that you have, it's fine. Like, especially for veterans, they know what they're doing. They're just trying to get ready for the regular season. Like lower level guys who need to make an impact and haven't. I mean, Kayvon Wallace, I think, is on my radar there. This is year 3 for him. He's had some flashes in summers past and has had trouble staying healthy. I think he has a chance to be maybe overtaken at that safety spot. Andre Sacheret has played well, and even Josiah Scott was getting some safety reps at practice yesterday. So I'm a little bit worried about Kayvon Wallace's roster chances. Some people have said Nakobe Dean has not stood out yet, and that's sort of true. Like, some of the other linebackers have made flash plays, but to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, guys, but, like, linebacker is the hardest position for me to really evaluate in training camp because they're not hitting. We don't know exactly what they're supposed to read. And, like, I sort of trust that what everybody says, that Nakobe Dean is, like, being in the right place when he's supposed to be.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought up Nakobe Dean because I've also, I've heard on a number of occasions where Nakobe Dean hasn't really been standing out, so to speak. Do you think they're overly cautious in terms of guarding him with that pec? If the pec is a problem, they say it's not. But do you think they're being just a little bit overly cautious with him just to keep him on the safe side?
I don't think it's a physical thing. I really don't.
Okay.
That could be possible. But I mean, he's still out there a lot, right. And he's getting reps with the second team. He actually got his first reps with the first team for a couple snaps and periods yesterday, which I thought was interesting. But it doesn't seem to me like he's limited in any way. I think it's just sort of bringing along a rookie, and they're deeper at linebacker than they have been in the past. I mean, TJ Edwards looks good. Kaiser White obviously comes with expectations, and even Davion Taylor, who it's like this wide range of outcomes for him. He's looked better than he ever has. So that linebacker group is in better shape than it has been certainly in the past couple of years.
Okay.
When you look at the offensive line and right guard, Sayamalo just locked things down. Is it still a competition, or is he just far and out the best right guard we have in camp?
Yeah, this was a little surprising to me. I was expecting there to be a competition. And, like, on day one, before the first practice, Nick Sirianni basically said, we're going to go with Isaac Sayamalo there. Like, it's important for us to have continuity. We want those guys to work as much together as they can, which makes sense because obviously Sayamalo and Lane Johnson they've been on the same line together, but not next to each other before.
Right.
So that makes sense. And, if it was going to be a competition, you would see Jack Driscoll working with the second team at right guard, but he's been working at right tackle with the second team exclusively. He has taken no guard reps. Even Cam Jurgens has taken no guard reps. He's only been at center. So I'm a little bit surprised that this isn't even like those guys have a chance with the second team to maybe impress and on the low, come up for the job, right week one, and maybe there's a Sayamalo trade or something like that. It hasn't even been like a covert battle like that. This is Isaac's job, and that's the way they're going.
Bo, I'll ask you what I ask all of our reporters who are on hand there. How do you see the return game shaking out?
It's going to be interesting. I think there.
Don't say Jalen Reagor. Don't say it.
He's going to say it.
He's got to.
Well, I mean, he has been working there, but I'm with you, Gunnar. I do not trust him, and I don't think they can trust him there.
Right.
Rager has definitely been a little bit more consistent this summer than he ever has. I was talking about this yesterday on our podcast, Birds with Friends, with Zach Berman. There's two things with Rager. There's the commodity and the player, and the commodity for the Eagles is sort of a sunk cost at this point. I think they would love to get anything they can get for him to save money if they can trade him on this roster. If he's at best the number 5 receiver, that means he has to contribute on special teams, and I think we agree that that's probably not going to happen. Then there's the player, and you feel bad for the guy, and you give him a lot of credit for working through things and coming out every day and showing up. He had a really good practice yesterday, had a couple nice catches, and got to work with the ones for the first time because Quez Watkins left practice. But as a returner, I'm with you. I don't think that's going to happen. There was some excitement about Britton Covey coming in. You can't really judge him as a returner until we see it in preseason games. He's been a little bit underwhelming to me as an offensive player. And then the other guys who are there are sort of the usual cast of characters. Greg Ward, Kenny Gainwell, Jason Huntley. I think Huntley has the most juice as a kickoff returner, but I don't know if they're willing to carry him on the roster for that job.
Who do you see at this point being the 4th and 5th wide receiver then, if that's the case?
I think it's Pascal. He's going to be the number 4, but he's got to get on the field. He's been dealing with this
illness.
This food poisoning. He's been out a week. He hasn't been on the field yet. He was watching practice yesterday, so I assume that means that he's ready to come back soon. But given his history with Sirianni and the expectation that this offense will be familiar to him, I would imagine that he's still going to get that number 4 job. And then if it's not Rager, it's an interesting competition for who gets a spot. Greg Ward, I think they like. Everybody loves him in the locker room. He's very dependable. I don't know if they want to guarantee his contract, which would be the case because he's a vested veteran now. But he would be the leader there. And then down roster guys like Deion Kane is a veteran who's looked pretty good so far. But I think that's more of a case of a third-year veteran working against third teamers should look good. And so he's looked fine, but I don't think it's good enough to really make a real push.
Are we really 18 minutes into this interview? I don't think we've asked him about Jalen Hurts. Have we? Have we gone down the
I'm surprised it took this long to get to Deion Kane.
Yeah, I'm like, what is happening here? But a lot's been made. We go through this thing where it's and I get it. Everything's charted now. We're keeping track of every single throw that he makes. But what's your sense of where he's at? I mean, is this kind of where you should be at this point in training camp? Is he a little behind? Is he a little ahead? Is he where is he in your estimation?
Well, I think the first thing is thinking about the context of practice. And it's interesting because Jalen and Sirianni have sort of said different things. Yesterday, Jalen Hurts was talking about how he approaches practice. And he was saying, it is a lot different than a game. You try some things in practice that you wouldn't try in a game. For one, because you want to give the defense a look. You're sort of wasting the secondary's time if you run out of bounds or throw the ball away if you're scrambling, right? So you sort of try to force things, and it's a different atmosphere. This is when you try to find out what works. Whereas Sirianni was talking about how Hurts has thrown 3 interceptions in team periods over the course of camp so far, and he was going through them, and there were 2 of them that he said were understandable. One, you make Marcus Epps made a great play on a pass to Dallas Goedert. You tip your cap. Marcus Epps made a great play. There was one where Avonte Maddox made a nice leaping play, and Sirianni said, I would like to see Hurts check that one down. But then there was one where Hurts was rolling to his left and tried to throw it across his body and fit it into a tight window, and Andre Sacheret picked it off. And that was the one where Sirianni said, well, that's the one we want to work on. We need him to be a better decision maker because that's not the kind of throw we want him to make in a game. And so there's a little bit of a difference because Hurts is I'm going to try that because now's the time to try it. And Sirianni's thinking, well, I want you to do what you're doing in games.
Yeah.
But in terms of how he's done, I think he's been pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. Certainly better than last year. He's gotten the ball to AJ Brown a lot. I thought the most encouraging thing he did was yesterday. There was a blitz in his face, coming from the left side. And he very quickly was able to check to his hot read, which was A.J. Brown coming across the field into that same vacated area. And there was no hesitation. He knew exactly what his job was. And it was a huge play. It would have been a huge play. And so
I just talked about that, Bo. I just talked about
Barrett just did a master class on it before you came on.
Well, and that was what was interesting is I was watching that play because that was Nakobe Dean's first defensive snap with the ones. And Nakobe Dean is the one who had to chase AJ Brown across the field because they were blitzers. And like Nakobe Dean is a good athlete. He's not that good of an athlete. And so he's trailing behind and AJ Brown gets the ball in space as I'm sure you described, and it would have been a huge play. So, I mean, listen, the things that Sirianni said about Hurts in the offseason that he needs to get better at, accuracy and decision-making. We won't really know if that's the case until the season comes, but it seems, at least to me, incrementally better than it was at least at this time last year.
If you're a betting man, do you expect to see any of the ones in any preseason game whatsoever, since more teams are getting away from that?
Well, I think that they'll tell you that the joint practices are that's what it is for the
preseason
ones,
games.
right?
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll see a couple guys. Like it depends on how we define ones because there are only so many reps to go around. But
yeah.
I mean, the Kelseys, the Grahams, the Lane Johnsons, I don't think we're going to see those guys a ton. I think I would be surprised if we don't see like one series of Jalen Hurts.
Really?
I agree. Yeah.
I'm shocked. I'm serious. I'm not even being sarcastic. You think Hurts will get a series?
I think we might get one series of Jalen Hurts.
Bo, I had to laugh at D Gun when he said it. Now I'm laughing at you too. There's no way we see those guys out there because it's just what this new wave NFL does, and the fear of injuries, the multitude of injuries. So I doubt seriously, but you mean you're closer to that team than I am every day, man. If you see it, man, maybe he needs that. Maybe he needs to go out there and see, fully, live reps just to have some.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to call a read option and get him hit, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if they.
I would love that.
That's one series.
I would love, and I think that Jalen would love that also.
What, to call a read option?
No, to play in a preseason game. To play in a preseason game. Yeah. I think that is necessary just to get the speed of the game because, even going from preseason to the regular season, it amps up 20% once you hit the field and it all counts. It amps up 20% as far as how fast the game is, the effort guys give. And when it counts, you got to be out there, man, because you don't know what game is going to keep you from getting to the playoffs. So, but if he goes out there and he plays, let's say 5, 6, 7 snaps, and all he's doing is hand off right, hand off left, why put him out there?
Yeah,
but Bo, here's the other thing:
it's a couple throws. I mean,
don't you have to have your starting O line out there too to have him not get killed?
Well, that's right. I think if Jalen's out there, you got the ones out there. Maybe not. Like you could trust Cam Jurgens at center and Jack Driscoll at right tackle if you want to let Kelsey and Lane have the night off. Okay. But I think you're right. You do want most of those guys out there if Jalen's out there.
Right.
If let's say Kelsey sits, do you think it would be Jurgens would get the nod as the starting one?
Definitely. If Kelsey was down, for sure.
So he's the backup in your estimation there. Okay. Look, nothing but rave reviews about him. About Jurgens, like you said earlier. So that's a positive, man. I mean, if he gets out there right away. We didn't ask about Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is a guy who I at least again by what you hear has flashed a few times. What's your sense of him and just seeing that size up close and personal?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely stands out. You can tell which one is Jordan Davis when you look on the field. He's been good. I don't think he's been amazing. I think he's still learning and still figuring things out. He was describing how this is a different technique for him. At Georgia, it was more read and react, and now it's get upfield. But he's going to play a lot. There's no doubt about it. I mean, especially considering like the how much Jonathan Gannon wants to incorporate these odd fronts when there are going to be like 3 quote unquote defensive tackles on the field at the same time. Davis is going to play a lot. Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams. That's about as good of a top 4 as I think there is. I'm not so sure. Like, the big question with Jordan Davis is he ever going to have that pass rush impact? Like he needs to, if it's going to justify, trading up to the 13th pick. But I think there is probably a pretty high floor for Jordan Davis, right? Because even if he doesn't develop that, he should still be a pretty good, run stuffing defensive tackle and a presence in the middle of that defense.
Last question for me, Bo. Is Gannon putting himself in a position to be called more aggressive defenses? Do you see it now?
I hope so, man. I hope so. I'm tired of watching this passive defense. That's not Philadelphia. I don't know. I don't know what to expect because he's got all the pieces. there are no excuses for this defense not to be a top 10 defense, given all the holes that they've plugged and the money they've invested. But I don't know if we're going to see it. Like I'm a little bit worried. Like, you know, a guy like Hassan Reddick, who has been as good of a pass rusher as there is the past couple of years, he still needs to be schemed up a little bit, right? Like it's not just line up and go for Hassan Reddick. He needs to have a little bit of help in terms of the scheme. Plus, is he going to be dropping a lot? I don't know. We'll see. And like, are they going to be? Are the linebackers and safeties going to be playing as deep as they were on third downs last year? I think the safeties will be. I think I would hope that the linebackers, because they've gotten better, can be playing a little bit more up close. I'm curious. I mean, his blitz numbers you would expect, because you have Reddick. Just thinking about it, like if Reddick's on the field, that means that you have to have some kind of disguise if he's coming or not. And so you would expect that the blitz numbers are going to increase. I hope that's the case. I think I'm with you guys. Like let's see it. That's not defense. Let's go and get the quarterback.
Let me throw this out here for all three of you, getting it back to the quarterback. I can see this happening in the preseason. Gardner Minshew plays all 3 preseason games, makes all these plays against 2s and 3s. And before the regular season kicks off, we start with this Minshew mania stuff again. And all of a sudden, you got people Minshew versus Jalen Hurts. Now, tell me you don't see that happening.
Well, I'm sure there will always be some people who will see that and maybe have that reaction.
Rob knows, see.
I will tell you that Gardner Minshew has been very up and down in camp thus far. He had a pretty bad day on yesterday, threw a couple interceptions, and the second team offense as a group was very sloppy. But you're right. I mean, like Gardner Minshew going up against backups is like a good recipe for him. He can just sort of run around and find open guys. But aside from like the people who are always going to call for the white backup quarterback, I think nobody serious is going to take that serious.
We went racial. We incorporated the racial element into the backup.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
There's a comment there when you drop the mic and just walk off the stage, just like the rapper. There
Gardner
you go.
Minshew backup, in case we're going to start that craziness that Gunnar just introduced. He can't.
You don't think that's a possibility it could happen?
Yes.
I hope it's not a possibility.
Sadly,
I'm telling you, it's not fair, but you know it's going to happen.
I hear you.
He'll hit Jalen Reagor on a couple big passes, and that'll get people excited. Yeah,
God.
I'm trying to think because otherwise the down roster receivers are not that great. So it's going to have to be Jalen Reagor unless you want like 3 Noah Tongi touchdowns.
As long as Jalen's not upset by something John Clark tweets, I mean, he should be dialed in and ready to go, because that's what I want him worried about, tweets. Anyway, Bo, great stuff, man. Keep checking you out at The Athletic as well as on Twitter at Bo_Wulf. Excellent job, Bo. We appreciate a couple minutes, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, you got it.
Take care,
That
bro.
is Bo Wulf. All right, good stuff there from
great stuff from him. Great stuff from him.
Insights. All right.